Hi everybody and welcome back to the Stamperia Magic Forest mini album tutorial for ScrapNCreate. In this video, we will begin decorating the front of page 3. If you're new to the series, all of the papers for the Magic Forest collection are available at scrapncreate.com and they're linked in the description box below. So to get started for the front of page 3, we're going to be using this 8x8 paper. I did cut this down to 5 inches by 8 inches, and we're going to be making another piece for our paper. If you remember when we started, I said there was going to be a piece tucked in here that's going to go over the front. We're going to do it using this image here. I also have a piece of cardstock that measures 5.5 by 8 inches that we will need for this step as well. I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch on the 5.5 inch side on the right hand side of the page. I'm going to go ahead and fold on this score line and have this piece ready to go, but we're going to need to first do a little bit to this piece. So in the very first page of our album, we had the picture of the girl where we cut around it. We're going to do the same thing with the image of the deer. We're going to cut around this part of it and up into here, and then we're going to come around and we're going to leave some of this, and then we're going to have some of the forest behind it. So I'm going to start with my deer. I'm going to leave just a little bit of this, and I really like this red leaf. So I'm going to come and curve in here when I do my fussy cutting. So I'm just going to start. And then I'm going to, because I'm doing this the wrong direction, it's easier to see how I'm cutting. I'm going to come around this in a different direction. So I'm going to actually turn it this way and go down from here. And I'm basically going to be leaving about 1/8 of an inch around my picture. So I'm not cutting right up against the deer. Very similar to how we did the first image. We want to leave a little bit of a border. So now I have this part. I'm going to need to cut this, and I have to decide now how I'm going to do this. And I think I'm going to come around this all the way to here and just have this short end. So I'm going to make that decision now and just cut right into my paper. If you want more of this image, you can make yours however you want. It's really up to you how much you want to save of that image versus how much you want to see the paper that's going to be behind it. So now I have my basic shape. I'm going to go ahead and place it on my paper first. Now I am going to trim this down a little bit just so that it will be at the edge of my page. So I'm going to bring my paper trimmer in. And I'm going to trim, I'm going to start with 3/8 of an inch and see if that's enough. And then I'm going to go ahead and round this up here just a little bit because I don't want that harsh corner. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down now that I like the shape of it and the size of it. So I'm just going to add my adhesive onto the back of my piece on my deer, and then I'm going to apply this onto my cardstock so that there's 1/8 of an inch border on the right hand side and on the bottom. I'm going to be fussy cutting this so that it is the same on the left hand side, but for right now I just want to get that border on the part that I'm not going to be fussy cutting. Next, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to leave 1/8 inch border around this entire piece If you don't feel comfortable fussy cutting this, you can draw a line and then cut on the line. So I do have my piece cut out. I have my tab here. I'm going to just go ahead and take this little piece off of the tab so that it's straight across. Gonna line this up, get that nice and straight. All right, so now we have our piece. We're gonna bring our page in. We're going to open this flap. This little tab is going to be placed inside here. I'm gonna close that flap and close this one. So now when this piece is on the front, you can place this all the way down. If you want this to be all the way down at the bottom, then you'll have to use the corner rounder, or you can place it up a little bit too. So I'm going to place mine up just a little bit, so I'm not going to round that corner. I'm going to just draw a line where I want mine to be. Then I'm going to place my adhesive on my tab. Tuck it back into my pocket. And I'm going to put it in place and press down. Then I'm gonna open this back up and come back in here. And burnish this really well. So now we have the first flap on our page, and then we'll add our decorative paper, but we also need to add a closure, so we'll be adding a magnet here before we do anything else, and we will be covering that magnet with some of the decorative paper as well. For the background behind the deer, we're going to be using this 12 by 12 paper. We're going to cut one piece down to 5 inches by 8 inches, but I actually want my piece to start here, so I'm going to be cutting this piece for my page. So I'm going to measure this at 5 inches, and this looks like it's right around 10¼ inches. So I'm going to just cut this piece first. And then I'm going to line this bottom edge up just with the edge of my paper. And then I'm going to take this and cut this to 8 inches. So I now have this. I need to use my corner rounder on my 2 right-hand corners. So this piece will go here on the front, and then the deer will go on top. But we need to put our closures, so we're going to need to get 2 magnets. We're going to place the closure for the deer. I think I'm going to place mine right towards this middle part, kind of in the chest area. I'm going to remove this. And then apply that second magnet. And now I can place this over top of that to hide that magnet. Next, I need to cut a piece to cover this, but you need to measure yours so that it's the same. So my cut might be a little bit different than yours just based on how much you've trimmed your paper. So you are going to need to measure from the longest point. So putting your ruler up against the edge of the paper, this is the furthest point away. So mine is 4 3/4 inch. So I'm going just to the edge of this. And then I'm going to take my ruler from the highest point down to my lowest point down here at the bottom, and that is about 7 inches. So I'm going to cut my piece. I'm using this 12 by 12 paper here. So my piece measures 4 3/4 by 7. And when I place it here, all of that piece is completely covered. So I want to make sure that it does cover the entire thing. Now we're going to be adhering this down, and then we're going to fussy cut around this again to get that shape back. So once you have your piece cut, I want you to go ahead and add your adhesive all to this piece, and then we will place this piece right down on top of it. So now that I have my adhesive on the piece, I'm just going to take this and line it up with the score line on the left and the bottom edge. And then I'm going to burnish this down just to make sure it has a good secure hold. Next, I'm going to use my fussy cutting scissors, and I'm going to cut all along here, right at the edge of it, so that there isn't anything hanging over. So this is what it should look like from the front side and the back side, and then closed. From the 8 by 8 page, we're going to take this little tiny piece, back it on cardstock. We're going to make this a tuck spot down here. And from the 8 by 8 papers, I've cut 2 tags that are going to tuck down in here. So now my magnet is right here. I want to make sure that these pieces are in that magnet. The less paper that's between these magnets, the firmer that they will close and the stronger the bond will be. So I'm going to take my adhesive and apply just a thin line here and a little tiny bit on this left-hand side, just to keep it all on that flap. And I'm going to place it towards the left-hand bottom part of the flap. And then I'll put my 2 pieces in here, my 2 little tags, so that they stay there, and then it'll still tuck closed. Next, I'm going to work on the frame. So we're going to bring this piece in that we've used for the other 2 frames. Remember, we're going to be cutting in this direction. I cut 4 strips that measure 3/8 of an inch by 8 inches. So then I trimmed down 2 of them to about 7 5/8 of an inch. The first one I'm going to take and place down here from this edge down to the bottom of the page. The second one, I'm going to slightly round the top right-hand corner with my scissors, and I'm going to place it here from this part of the frame up to the top edge of the page. Then I've cut 2 pieces to be about 4 3/4 of an inch, just slightly less though, just a little bit. So it's not 4 5/8, but just a little tiny bit shorter than 4 3/4. The first piece is going to go up here, and then the bottom piece, I slightly rounded this right-hand bottom corner using my scissors, and I'm going to place it here. And there'll be a slight border around all of these pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these pieces on first, and then we're going to place our insert, and then we'll place our image on top of the page. Now that we have our frame on, we need to cut a piece to go behind the vellum. It's going to measure 5 inches by 8 inches. I'm using the 8 by 8 papers here, so I'm cutting the castle image, so 5 inches by 8 inches. And then I'm going to adhere this right inside of my pocket, so you'll be able to see that castle image through the acetate or through the vellum when the mat isn't in the pocket. Now that I have the castle piece behind the vellum frame, I'm going to add some of my ephemera pieces. So I'm going to place her first, just removing the background. And I'm going to put her down here in the left bottom corner. Once I have her on, I'm just going to make sure she's nice and adhered. So using my bone fold to press her into the vellum. And then you can see I have these pieces layered here. So I'm going to be applying my leaves first. So I'm just going to remove this leaf and apply it below that gold filigree piece. And then I will put the second leaf down before I apply this piece. And you can place these wherever you want. If you don't like the look of this, or if you want different pieces, obviously you can change this up. You don't have to add any of these pieces either if you just want your frame to be plain. So now I have all of my pieces on. We're going to cover this and then we'll come back and we'll make an insert for the pocket. From this 12 by 12 paper, I've cut a piece down here that measures 5 inches by 4 1/4 inches. It's going to go in the center. This is going to be where the photo should go. Then from this 12 by 12 paper, I've cut this top piece to 5 inches by 3 1/2 inches. Then I cut this into 2 pieces that measure 5 inches by 1 3/4 inches. Next, I use the corner rounder on the top left corner on the one piece and the bottom left corner on the second piece. So this piece is going to go at the top and this piece is going to go at the bottom. I've cut this piece from here from the 8 by 8 paper and I'm going to add this here to my page just for some decoration, and the photo will tuck up underneath of it. So I'm going to adhere only the top half of this onto that decorative paper, and then everything that is on the bottom part will just go over top of the photo once the photo is on the page. From cardstock, I cut one piece that measures 5 inches by 8 inches. This will be the photo mat for the pocket. This is the 12 by 12 paper we're going to use to decorate this photo mat. So I first cut one piece to 4 3/4 inch, just straight down the page. So I had 4 3/4 by 12. Then I took this piece, I cut 1/2 inch off the top. Then I cut this to 7 3/4 inch. So this 7 3/4 by 4 3/4 piece is going to go on the front of my photo mat. Now for this piece that was left, I cut 1/4 inch off the bottom. Then I cut right along this white piece and then I fussy cut around it. We're going to remove this and use this piece here. On the back of the photo mat, this piece is going to get adhered down to the bottom, but this part is not going to have any adhesive. It's going to act as a tuck spot for the photo, so only this piece is going to be adhered on. Then from this 12 by 12 paper, I cut the top corner to 4 3/4 by 6 inches, and this is going to go at the top of the photo mat on the back. This is where the photo will go. It's going to tuck underneath here, so this will be adhered down. This will be open for the photo to slide underneath. From the 8 by 8 sheet, I did cut this small piece and place it on the front of the photo mat. And then now on the back, as you can see, this is a tuck spot for the photo to tuck underneath. And so now my photo mat is finished. I can slide it right in here inside of my pocket. So now you'll see 2 separate images behind her. So you'll have the waterfall when the photo mat is in, and then the castle when the photo mat is out. Or if you place your photo in here, whenever you have your photo there, you'll be able to see the photo behind her. So it's really your preference once you have your photos in the book. But until then, everything is decorative and really pretty. So now we have that finished. We're going to go ahead and close up our pages, making sure everything is a little bit thicker now, obviously. So I'm going to make sure everything folds closed. And then this latches here to the magnet. So now the front of page 3 is finished. We're going to move on to decorating the back of page 3. To begin with the back of page 3, I'm first going to place my magnet. So my magnetic closure is going to be on the back side of this tag and on the front side of this one. You could also place it up here if you want, but I'm going to be placing mine here. Now I have to make sure that it's not too close to the edge of this tag or the edge of this tag. So I'm going to be placing mine right about here. I think that should be good. So my magnet is placed about, the center of it is about 5/8 of an inch in from the left-hand side and about 5/8 of an inch up from the corner. So now that I have that one placed, I'm going to secure the second magnet to it, remove the backing, and close my flap to place that magnet on the front. Now I have my cards in the order that I want to place them. I'm going to be putting this one here, this one here, this one here, and then this one here. So I'm going to adhere each of these down to the front of my tags, and then we're going to close this and we're going to start on the front. Next, I'm going to take this scrap piece left over that has the ivy and then this teal color. It is the back of the piece. This is from the 12 by 12 paper that had the picture of the woman's face. So we are going to just be using this scrap. I'm going to be cutting this and this, but first we're going to start with this piece here. I'm going to cut this to be 1 1/4 inches wide. So just trimming just a little bit off of that. And then I'm going to cut this in half. So it's 5 inches. I'm just going to cut this at 2 1/2. Then I'm going to take the piece of ivy. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm cutting 1 1/4 inches. And then I'm going to cut this to 2 1/2 inches. Now I'm going to set the pieces of ivy off to the side, and I'm going to bring the 2 pieces back in that are more of the teal color. You could have actually probably left it in one piece and it would have been fine now that I look at it. So if you didn't cut yours yet and you want to leave it one piece, it will actually fit here where it needs to go. So we've got our pieces here. We're going to adhere those, and then we're going to adhere this right into the center to cover the magnet and complete our closure. Now that the pieces are on the closure band, we'll go ahead and close that, and then we're going to start working on this section. We're first going to put the pieces with the ivy here. Again, if you have this in one piece, that's perfectly fine. You can just go ahead and place it down right on your strip. Now, before I place my tag on top of here, I'm going to be backing some of my leaves onto cardstock and fussy cutting them because I'm going to be placing them up underneath of that tag. So I have the large red leaf, I have one of the green and gold leaves, and I have another gold and green leaf here. I'm going to go ahead and back them, fussy cut them, and then I'll show you how we're going to arrange them on the page. All of my pieces are backed on cardstock. I did go ahead and just set my middle tag here in the center, and I'm going to start placing my pieces. So I'm going to start with the large red leaf. I want this to be up here in this top corner. So it's going to go here. And then I'm going to place my green and gold leaves. I think I'm going to do this one and this one on each side of it. And you can really just decide what you like best, the look of, until you get something that you like. So I'm just going to keep playing around with my leaves. And I think I like the look of that for here. And then I'm going to put the little green one down here in the corner, And then this gold one, I think I'm going to tuck here behind it. Then I'm going to move these around like this. Now that I have a general idea of where I want my leaves, I'm going to take my adhesive, I'm going to hold these ones down. It looks like this one is going to be completely underneath. So I'm going to remove this one first and just put a little bit of adhesive down here in this corner. I'm going to place each of these leaves and then I'm going to move them in place where I want them to be. I'm going to do the same thing up here. And it looks like the red one and the gold one have to go on before my green one does. So I'm just going to lift this up slightly. Going to put some glue down. So I'm just going to remove all of them just because they came up. And then I'm going to place my red one. My gold one is going to be down here. Then I'm going to take my green one and add some glue, place it here, and then I'm going to just kind of play around until I like the look of it and am satisfied with the placement. And once I have that where I want it, I'm just going to firmly press down on these. Then I'm going to open this one just to make sure that there's nothing on the back side. And I think I can get a little bit of glue on this red leaf with the green one so that it's adhered down a little bit better. Same thing with this gold one. I'm going to put some glue underneath the tip of it so that it's adhered down to this band. So then we'll have this. And I'll be able to adhere my center tag right over the top of those leaves. So now I have my closure. If you don't like the look of this cardstock here, you can cover this with decorative paper or you can use ink to make it a color. I'm just going to leave that plain. Then I have my tags that flip up and down. So next we're going to decorate the backs of the tags and then we'll decorate the base of the page. So I have a piece of this paper here. I'm going to cut 4 pieces that measure 2 1/4 by 3 inches. I'm going to take each of these squares and place it here on my tags. This will be the place, if you choose, that you can put a small photo. So I've got 2 down at the bottom and then 2 are going to go at the top. And then we're going to cut another piece of the decorative paper for here so that we can have that just be a different color to give it a bit of contrast. From this 12 by 12 paper, I'm going to cut one piece that measures 5 inches by 4 1/4 inches. It will go here in the center. This will be the spot for my photo. From this 12 by 12 paper, I'm going to I cut mine first at 5 inches by 3 1/2. Then I cut this in half again. So this is 1 3/4 by 5 inches. I use the corner rounder on the top left corner on the top piece and the corner rounder on the bottom left corner on the bottom piece. So these are going to go here. There will be a border around all of those pieces. So you will see some of that cardstock. Then I also cut strips of paper from this sheet here. I cut in one long strip first. I cut this to 1 1/4 inches by 4 1/2 inches. It was like this. And then I cut this to 5/8 of an inch by 2 1/4 inches. So I have 4 pieces that measure 2 1/4 by 5/8. taking one of my pieces, I'm going to line up my edge on this side and this side. And I'm going to cut the diagonal. Then I'm going to line up the other side and cut on the diagonal. So now I have a piece that looks like this. And when I place this here, it should be the right dimensions for that piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with all of these pieces. From the 8x8 sheet, I did cut this piece here that I'm going to adhere just the top down. Now, when I do this, I want to make sure that my piece is hidden. It's not sticking up too high where you see it when those flaps are closed. So I've got a pretty good amount of my piece actually that will be glued down. So I'm going to add my adhesive, and then I'm going to place this. And I'm lining up the word everywhere with that space between my pieces. And I'm just eyeing it to make sure it is in the center. And I'm going to press it down and double check to make sure that you can't see it. It's slightly high, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. And now you can't see it when those two tags are closed. So I'm going to adhere this down. And then my photo will slip right up underneath of there whenever it is in the album. So now we can go ahead and close our upper and lower tags and close this, and we are finished with the back of page 3. So now we have the back and the front finished. We will add some more embellishments at the end once we've finished all of our pages and put them into the album. In the next video, we're going to begin constructing page 4 with all of the interactive elements. If you are new to the tutorial series, you can find all of the Magic Forest papers on the ScrapNCreate website, and they're linked in the description box below.